We all celebrated buying new players this summer, but that was stupid. What we should have done is invested in referees who will blow the whistle at Liverpool games on 90 minutes. This is the Arsenal Vision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Yeah, if we had, instead of investing in players, just bought referees who will blow the whistle in the Liverpool games at 90 minutes, they'd basically be bottom of the league and bottom of the Champions League. I mean, that's all you need to do. Just get rid of these 95th minute winners, 100-minute winners, 98th minute winners. And what are Liverpool really? I mean, what are they really? They're basically Tottenham Hotspur in red. But sadly, those things count. So we'll just have to continue to see if they can blow the whistle earlier on the Liverpool games. That's really the key. But we are not here to talk about them, largely because we haven't gotten permission from them to do that. We are here to talk about us. And by us, of course, I mean Arsenal. And we did talk about other clubs yesterday. Phil and I did a power rankings on Patreon. I have to say, it's probably the hardest I've laughed in a long time. The sections on Villa, the sections on United, the sections on some of the stuff around Chelsea. There was some really funny stuff. We were doing live updates on the Champions League as it happened. We talked Ange Postecoglou saying, by Wednesday, you will see my influence on Forest. And what happened on Wednesday? They had a 2-0 lead against Swansea City in the League Cup and lost 3-2. So yes, Ange, we're seeing your influence by Wednesday. You are correct, sir. So yeah, get the power rankings in your ears. We've got a fun pod coming tomorrow on Patreon with Kaya Kainak, but it will not be Friday Night Clive because I am flying to Kansas City tomorrow, and so we cannot do a Friday night pod because I will be on an airplane. And as yet, that is not a conceivable place to record. But what I will tell you is that I'll be in Kansas City. And if you want to be in Kansas City for FanFest, we have a podcast event with me and Paul on Saturday. There'll be a drinks event after, and then there'll be the game watching together on Sunday, and then you can listen to us record the instant reaction. Clive will be, as I understand it, pissed and recording his voice note from the Emirates on Sunday. So that should be a fun one. Join us on the Patreon. AVP50 is the code if you want to do it for a couple of quid and see what you think. Otherwise, just stay here. There'll always be content here. We're just happy to have you. And here with me now, oh, and I should mention, by the way, at the end of this pod, Boyce from the KC Gooners joined me. We're going to have about a 10-minute chat quickly about Kansas City, the football tradition there, the Arsenal support there, what to expect at FanFest, and just nice to get a little bit of local flavor, local color from Boyce there. So appreciate him, and you'll hear him at the end of this pod. Okay, here with me now, for real, is Paul. Hello, Paul.
Woo!
And Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Elliot?
I'm terrible. It's all terrible. But thanks for asking. Paul?
Are we doing banter? Are we doing some banter?
No banter. I'm going to get right to you. Okay, we need to talk about the Athletic game, and then we need to talk about the City game. Let's start with Athletic, and I think the best place to start, because just intellectually it makes it easier for me to do my job, is with the lineup. And Mikel Arteta likes Mikel Merino, and he likes to pick Mikel Merino, and that's just how things go. And so in this instance, he picked Mikel Merino with Zubimendi and Declan Rice. And I do wonder a little bit of going back to Spain. Did he want to give Zubimendi his shot in Spain? Did he want to give Merino his shot in Spain, right? Some of the guys going back to a place they're familiar with. Obviously, an emotional return for Mikel Arteta himself. Sam Mamez was in great voice. And yeah, he went with a midfield that I think for some people, Paul, is regarded as maybe a bit conservative or a bit physical while lacking technique. What do you think of that selection in particular, the midfield, and any other selection observations you have?
Yeah, I think it was physical. And like there are games where you could say it's conservative. Like I think part of the problem is you reframe last year as a really easy stroll to the knockout stages and a really easy stroll through to the semi-final, and we just fell short at the end. Like it ended up being a stroll through the first bunch of games, but really the first couple of games we kind of struggled to get going. And Europe is different, and this is an electric atmosphere. I'm told I wasn't there, but I had the TV up loud, and I feel I soaked in all of the passion of the home crowd. This was a bit of a cauldron to go into. They were scrappy. They were there for a battle. They weren't sat in deep the whole game. They were battling in midfield. They were playing their football, especially early on. And look, to the eye, somebody like a Nwaneri or an Odegaard allows us to play a little bit more flow. But that's not necessarily what this game was going to give us. The other team has a say too. It was their home territory. big crowd, huge crowd, loud crowd. First game of Europe, we need to get going. I think the manager correctly assessed this was more of a battle than something where they were going to allow us play free-flowing football and it was all going to go great. And, the other side of the ledger, I'm a bit of a Mikel Merino fan. I think he's a really clever footballer. I think yes, he's a battler in midfield, but he's got the automatic pump the ball upfield to where it should be to give the attacker a chance to run at their defense, and that's kind of in his DNA. And quick turns, quick spins, not fast across the ground, but quick decision making. Does it, clever little chip balls over the back line or through the back line to get the attackers sprinting onto it. And when you got Gyokeres, Madueke, and Eze to maybe a lesser degree, but Martinelli later on, you got players that you want somebody to pump that ball behind the back line, and Merino will do that every chance he gets. So it's a compromised position. Like, he's not going to be an out-and-out starter for us, and shouldn't be. But a great role player, and this is a point in the season where we need some good role playing, and we won.
Yeah, we did win, by the way. Yeah, I think there are people that have been critical of the selection, first of that midfield and also just of less rotation. I have said this before. I said it before the game. I think people expect rotation in the Champions League to a degree that you just don't really see in the Champions League. They have made it more important than ever to finish higher in the league table phase of the Champions League this season. And we are going to have games that come between really important Premier League fixtures later in the Champions League where we may want the opportunity to employ more rotation. I also think there may have been a misunderstanding of how good Athletic Club were last season and have been. They're one of the best defensive teams in La Liga and in Europe, in fact. Here's the list of teams that have gone to the San Mamés and created better chances and won, going back to 2023-24 per Scott's data. Arsenal, now, right, top of that list. Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, and Real Madrid. And the only one that makes you go, is Manchester United in the Europa League last season, but they played with 10 men for 55 minutes. Athletic. So this is a good team, a very good team at home, playing in an emotional return to the Champions League for one of their few times in their history. And I think we had to take this game very seriously, and we did with the lineup we picked. But Clive, there's, and by the way, real quick, loved seeing Gabby pull the armband on. Very nice for him. Clive, there is a reasonable discussion to be had, I think, about the start of this game and some of the challenges that we had. And they're challenges that I actually think are consistent with some things we've seen throughout the season, but were pretty acute in this game, and that's ball progression. So do you want to talk a little bit about how Athletic did a good job choking off our ball progression and some of the things that maybe we tried that weren't working or ultimately we needed to do to get the ball up the pitch?
Yeah, I think sometimes we have a picture of what a good Arsenal ball progression team is. But we've done it in different ways, and a lot of what we've done this year, we did a lot of recycling at the back. We're getting double pivots, picking their time to drop into the back line, so we're really overloading in the first phase of the game. If they force us back to our goalkeeper, it's not a problem, but one of our best progressive passers is our goalkeeper, and so we're pulling people onto us and then we're clipping it into areas. So Mikel Merino is one of those areas, right? So one of our patrons, I think his name's Lyle, he's very smart. He said Mikel Merino is almost replacing Kai Havertz and Odegaard. So he's giving you the Kai Havertz target, and he's giving you the Odegaard's left foot in that area, right? So, and that, what does Kai allow us to do? He allows us to clip it and go into him, and he holds it, and we press the game that way. So you need to pull people onto you to create those one-on-ones in the final third. Why is Madueke looking quite dangerous and threatening? Because he's facing one person generally, if we're on the move and progressing it. So we're not seeing the normal tip-tap into Odegaard, little shake, bake, back to Saka, back into Odegaard, progression, out the other side. We're seeing something else. So why? Because those two are not on the pitch. And so we have maybe centrality issues anyway. When they're on the pitch, we're going a different way. So and I'm fine with it, Elliot. I am. Long as we have a solution when we don't have people, because what we've seen before, when certain key people weren't there, we had no other way of playing, right? So we're developing a new way of playing. And so the pictures that we're seeing are completely different. When you flip into our left-hand side now, I won't take that yet because I'm sure you're going to talk about Eze later in the podcast. But there are different things happening in different areas, right? Calafiore is quite a new player for us consistently, and how he progresses the ball, how he uses the football is different. Zubimendi, again, we're learning what he does. Again, it's about taking the temperature out. And I agree very much what Tim said on the IR. This was probably the Anfield game plan. The thing is, when we made our changes in this game, our changes affected the game and we walk away 2-0. In the Anfield game plan, we made our changes. We all felt a little bit too late and they stuck on our net from 32 yards. Right? The only goal we conceded this year. So you couldn't see the game plan because we never had the chance for those subs to have the impact. In this game, those subs had the impact and when we walked away. So I'm comfortable seeing something different. You're right to say, Elliot, you're right to say our ball progression was different. But if you take out Saka, Odegaard, Saliba, you can't expect to have the same levels of ball progression because they're really, really good at helping us move up the pitch.
I think that's completely right. And I want to stay on this topic because I think it is an important one, because I don't think it's just an important one in this game. I think it's an important one for us overall, how we progress the ball. And going back to even last season, talking about playing inside the block versus around the block and how we solve these problems. You can go long, you can be more direct, you can win the ball in pressing. There's a lot of different ways to progress the ball. But I saw a really good chart from Scott around ball progression in this game. And I think it actually is the rare example of a chart that tells you the story of the first 2/3 of the game. So on the x-axis is passing fields gained, and on the y-axis is carrying fields gained, right? So it's measuring progression via pass and via carry. And our leader for passing fields gained, other than the goalkeeper, because they just boot it long, is Christian Mosquera, which I think is really interesting because that's sort of the Saliba role, and he's just slotted into it so effortlessly, right? The dot that you don't really see, because the next dot is Declan Rice. The dot you don't see is Martin Zubimendi, who's way down in the corner, having done almost no ball progression. I thought he was really well marshaled by a very organized athletic team that probably knows him a bit and understood a little bit how to neutralize him. Now, Noni Madueke is almost off the chart in carrying fields gained. And while I think he had an inefficient game attacking, he was absolutely essential in moving the ball up the pitch with his carrying. And so we used Mosquera to progress it. We used Noni to progress it with his carrying. But the midfielder who we think of as owning ball progression at times would be Odegaard. He wasn't there. And the other one would be Zubimendi, and he wasn't able to do that. Clive wants to jump back in, and Paul, I'll give you a shot at this as well.
Because we're framing somebody. We're framing him as a ball progressor when really he's a tempo setter in Zubimendi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? We're framing him. We know he can play the ball forward, but his real skill is managing the tempo of the game and allowing other people to play the ball forward. You know, so we mustn't do that without. We're still learning him, right? We're still learning him. But when I watch him, he's a first phase player, and he's first phase to build up. How can we bring people on to allow those attackers to get in those isolation positions, those one-on-ones, those situations where we have some go forward? And I have to say, Elliot, and I'll test it on you guys. On the games I've seen, the pitch feels a little bit bigger to me. It feels that we're travelling up the pitch rather than already there playing low blocks. So why is that happening? Because we're pulling people to us, right? So we had a mid-block game in this game, quite an aggressive one on occasions. But I thought we were right there. I thought we managed it much better than we have done. I can say it now because we won 2-0. But, you know, and I look at those games and I'm like you, Elliot. I think, come on, mate, make a run in behind. Do it. It's there. But they're patient. They wait until the right moment till they fall asleep and they went through. So, yeah, I just feel it's quite interesting. This is very similar to Liverpool's game. That what we're doing to pull people around and be really patient in the build-up. We're not overly obsessed with direct play until we go. Then when we go, it's fast support in behind. David Ray, I think, made 7 progressive passes into Madueke, I think, at Anfield. I think it was. I seem to remember reading that. I don't know what his numbers are in this game, but he's on the chart there with their goalkeepers. They're doing the same thing, right? Recycle, use a keeper, go. You know, so it's all about creating space by pulling people around. So you can see in some of the games, Mosquera's had the ball at his feet, people saying, go forward, go forward, go forward. They're not jumping. They're waiting. They're waiting. We roll out the block, receive, then we travel. So Mosquera looks quite positive. David Raya looks quite positive because they are really our ball progressors. Everyone else is about regain, retention, carry, recycle. Make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. I think that there are some things also just as I was watching that I thought were there for us, but we chose safety over risk. And I do just want to reiterate, by the way, our first away game in Champions League last season, 0-0 at Atalanta. Our first away game in Champions League the season before, a loss at Lens. These first away games in Europe, they're not, these teams don't roll over. It's not easy. I mean, sometimes they do, but we got new players on the pitch learning each other. You're going to a new place against a team you're not as familiar with that's been very good defensively at home. And I don't think the remit is go out and blow the doors off them right away, right? I mean, you have to have some understanding of how this competition works. And ultimately, we wind up winning, and we'll talk about how we got there in a bit. Paul, I think we can stay on this topic just a bit longer because 2/3 of this game really is about, I think, teams nullifying each other. And that's okay, right? We always say the other team gets to do tactics too. They're not just there to give you a platform to play your football the way you want. So is there a little bit of arrogance in the expectation that we should just move the ball right up the pitch and have them pinned back at the same Mames creating chance after chance? Or, is there a bit of an ability to dig in on this midfield and say it doesn't convince? Where are you on that diagram, on that spectrum, I should say?
Yeah, I get maybe the underwhelmed response to Mikel Merino midfield. It won't be our most exciting football. It just won't. I think it's the manager looking at this game pragmatically. What's wrong with pragmatic Arsenal? We've had, kamikaze Arsenal for a decade, and it was great fun.
Spurs have been gagging for pragmatic.
They're getting it. They're getting it now, mate.
They're getting it now.
They're copying us. Their set pieces look pretty good.
We had
Imagine what a coach can do.
We're more the intellectuals in this, right? We appreciate what's going on in the game.
Don't throw me in that group, man. I want goals. I want Eze on the ball, just dribbling guys. That's all I want.
The riffraff just want to be entertained, right? And that was the game at the weekend. It was bang, bang, bang. But you show up to a game, it's the Champions League, we're kicking it off again. There's lots of buzz, there's lots of excitement, and then it's a pragmatic game. So I get that frustration, and we all want to see more flowing football than this. But a Mikel Merino midfield is going to be more of a battle, more functional. He'll do some clever things, other players will do a few clever things. But you got Madueke there, and you got an easy button, and we kept hitting the easy button, which is hit Madueke, get us up the pitch, win a corner, get into their area of the pitch. They were never going to roll over for us. It wouldn't matter how flowing we set out to be. As I said, and as you said, first game of the Champions League campaign away, you can draw up your fancy, Dan. We're going to swan around. We're going to play. It wasn't going to happen, guys. That game almost certainly was not there for us on Tuesday. It's going to take us a couple of games to get back to my crepes. Have you heard my crepe analogy?
I'll level with you. I could do without it. It's just a flatter pancake, man. You're smuggling in a pancake analogy in the form of a crepe. I don't need it.
You can throw away the first one or two crepes. They're a bit oily. They're a bit doughy. Don't overanalyze this game. It's about getting a result, being pragmatic.
Can I wait? I'm going to stop you. I'm going to ask you though.
Yeah.
I think people have the right to say that the ball progression this season hasn't looked fully baked yet. And I'm not just talking in the Champions League. I'm talking against almost every opponent, including the ones we've bludgeoned. So are you prepared to at least acknowledge that the ball progression is still in the lab?
Yeah, we are not flowing yet. And until, who's our number 10 effectively of this team? It's Martin Odegaard, and he's been in and out and up and down, and he's yet to we've seen glimpses where I think physically and energy-wise he looked like he's back and he's fully at it. We haven't seen the play yet, and in his defense he's had almost no time to demonstrate, and these injuries won't help. But like, if it's not Odegaard who's making it all happen, who's closest to our 10, who's it going to be? We'd have to adjust the Eze. Like, without Eze, Nwaneri, or Odegaard in the middle of that, between the lines at the left 8 or the right 8, we're not going to get the flowing football that we expect at Arsenal. And I think we've got to be a little patient. And I must be doing a good job or a terrible job because Clive's itching to get back in there. But well, until you have that player, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Paul. I think we sort of discussed why things are happening here, don't we? We can all see the ball progression is not as we normally would see it.
Yeah.
And the key thing is connectivity. When we had our best moments in the game, I felt we were connected, right? So we were connected offensively, and we could rat-a-tat, upset through, right? So when we're closer in distances, I think we're good. We look connected. So I think we lacked a bit of connectivity off our right-hand side. I thought Madueke was very dangerous and threatening in behind, but that roll inside pass to Odegaard wasn't there. Marino was already high, if you see what I mean, as a box threat. So we were giving that up. And on the left-hand side, I think it's a discussion to have, which I'm sure you're going to have, Elliot, about how connected we were on that left-hand side. And so I do think we lack that connectivity together to allow us to progress. So distances allow you to progress the ball. When you see distances close, you do it. If you see distances long, you do it. So our ball progression is based on our positions on the pitch. So I sense that missing from the team at the moment on occasions. But I also accept we're not whole, we're not complete. We're bedding in a number of players. We're bedding in as our centre-back, who's 21, as our main centre-back ball progressor. We're bedding in a centre-forward who tends to want to hold it, buy a foul, run in behind. So he's got less dimensions than a 9.5 Kai Havertz, who's more of a midfielder, ball, who can receive it, etc. So I do think we're still building. So I'm not saying it's all right. I'm just saying this is probably why it's not as it should be or could be. But for an away game, we decided to go this way. And I'm interested because in all 3 of our away games, I think we've lacked this. So let's see what happens when we do go further down the season. Cause I'm not convinced we're quite cooking there yet as we could do.
Yeah. And don't worry, we will, of course, get to praising Martinelli, praising Leo, and I think vilifying Mikel Arteta. And sometimes we have to. I'm not saying it gives us pleasure, but he had the audacity to call subs finishers. It's a crime against football. The media are outraged, and rightly so, and we will get to that because it's unacceptable to use a different word for super sub. Shouldn't be done, and we'll come on to that. I apologize that I even mentioned it, but we will talk about it. I'm kidding, obviously. Clive, I want to just touch on the Noni Madueke thing. I don't think it's a big talking point, but I think it's an interesting one because Noni has looked so bright and so impactful, carrying the ball past players, driving past them, getting into space, moving the ball up the pitch and into the penalty box. But at this point, I think it's also fair to point out, not always generating much from those actions. And this was a game where I saw a big split in the opinion of his performance because some people saw him as the route by which we got into dangerous areas, and some people saw him as the place that those moves went to die in a way, right, in terms of what the final action was. And I do find it interesting that he's a player who's left-footed but still seems to prefer to take it on his right and just run in straight lines and is not as tricky necessarily cutting back inside. Maybe that'll come. But I'm curious how you appraise the performance of someone who clearly had a lot of important actions in the game, but not in the last third.
Yeah, so if we are looking at just his actions, everyone listening has seen them. So we could discuss them, whether he had a bad cross, made the right decision, etc., etc. And we'll do that forevermore as football people.
Yes.
However, if you look at the team and you look at the balance of the team, we really need that threat from him. If Martinelli's not playing, we need it from him. We need a runner and a creator in our wide areas. And that's the balance that we've chosen. Eze is a creator, Noni as the runner in behind. What do we have in the central 2 areas? We have Gyokeres as the runner and Marino as more the creative force and the standstill athlete. Right? So in the front 4, we have 2 people who want to sprint off and 2 people want to stand still and receive. And so for the balance of the team, he's critical. Do you see what I mean? And so I think any team, we all need an exit. We all need a go-to guy. And we were going to him regularly because we wanted to push them back and get up the pitch, which is a form of progression, isn't it? Progressing the ball up the pitch, right? Whether it goes through the thirds and it's in the expected threat charts, etc., I'm not sure. But I'm looking at a pitch, I'm thinking, mate, I need you to go here because they're getting close. They're coming to trap us. You need to spin in behind, and boom, he spins in behind. It's exactly what we need. And they're thinking, oh, geez, we got to catch him now. So we got to catch him. Jeez, I can't believe it. And then the fullback says to his left winger, mate, you better come back and help me here because he's running me to death. And so while he's doing that, he's not pressing our right back, who comes out of the game was almost man of the match, right? So these are the things you have to do to get people off you in an away game in Europe. You've got to threaten their back line. I've called for this for a long time. I don't think we ran in behind enough. I think we all came to the ball. Now we've got people that want to go away and show you your shorts. So that's exactly what I want to see. Now, I know he's got size 12 feet, and I think he doesn't hold his ankles properly, and he doesn't get enough firm contacts. And I can't tell you where his contact's going to go. I generally can't tell you what foot he's going to use. But step one, he is the threat. And every team is starting to see it now. Even between the Forest and the Bilbao game, you could see the respect level went up. And they really had to work on him. While they're working on him, we're getting space elsewhere. So performance wasn't perfect, but his threat, 2 big games in 3 days, I thought was really, really, 3-4 days, I thought he was really, really good, really good.
Yeah, it's funny because a single moment going slightly differently can change all of the analysis. In the 20th minute, Noni beats his man beautifully from great build-up from Eze. So Eze gets the ball, he cuts it inside, he builds it beautifully, gets past a man. Timber winds up doing a beautiful ball recovery when the move breaks down, gets it to Noni, and Noni cuts it back for Eze standing in the middle of the box. And the defender does a sensational job taking it right off Eze's foot. And if that defender doesn't make that fantastic intervention, I think it's a goal. And then you have Eze with good build-up, Noni with a perfect ball to just the right guy, Eze standing in the perfect place and finishing. And the whole, I think, analysis of those two performances, Noni and Eze in particular, is transformed by that. And that's an example of where a great defensive intervention kind of takes that away from us. And now we're looking at maybe a less effective Eze performance than we wanted, and Nani's end product wasn't quite what we wanted, and it all pivots around a moment like that. So, that's just something that happens. And so I want to talk a little bit about the Gyokeres performance. And the funny thing is, I don't even see it as a huge talking point, except that Thierry Henry talks, and when Thierry Henry talks, things become a talking point. There's just no way of getting around it. He's our best ever player. So we'll talk Gyokeres a bit, but before we do that, Paul, I'd rather stay on something just a little more positive. Just super quick, maybe 2 minutes or less. We've now seen him against lower-end Premier League opposition. We've seen him against the best Premier League opposition, and now we've seen him away in Europe at 21 years old, deputizing in a role that's really important for us, and that's Christian Mosquera, as we already touched on. Led us in passing ball progression outside of David Raya. Again, I don't think he puts a foot wrong. I keep waiting for him to have that little slip back because I feel like young players who come into a team start out brightly and then, they ebb a little bit, right? Because that's just the natural rhythm of development. But there's no ebb so far. Another really assured performance from a player who's saying, all right, William Saliba, I know you're William Saliba, but I want this shirt, man,
Yeah, oh my word. I think that the depth strength we have in our defense, there's no slip. You lose Calafiori, you'll have Maslow Skelly. It's Timber or White. It's Mosquera or Saliba. It's in Capier or Gabriel, who's an absolute rock. And, props to Gabriel as a partner to whoever comes in. And the platform, look what Mosquera walks into, right? He's got Raya behind him. He's got Timber or White or Gabriel around him. He's got Zubimendi, a master of cool and control, ahead of him with Declan Rice. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is he's totally stepped in, looked the part. You wouldn't know, right? If you put your hand over the label, you wouldn't know. You'd just think this guy has been there for several years. He's at the level. There's no blip. There's no step down. Well, the only thing you miss is there's like one or two of those crazy Saliba moments in a game where he's got two guys on him. He spins around, steps through them, and then kind of progresses the ball up the pitch or does something very Saliba-ish, but outside of that occasional Saliba moment, you don't notice it's not Saliba. And I think it's what a signing. We're so good in general, I think, lately in our signings. I don't really have any doubt. We've got very, very good at our signings. Premier League signings, we tend to pay the money and they tend to match the money and then overperform. And we've just got he's big, he's an athlete. That's what we're going for, very athletic players. That's the game now. He's fantastic and tremendous props to him. He's got quite a bit of experience for a younger player, as a number of people have. He's 21, but he's played quite a bit. And as I think we've talked about, he came into the team, never went out of it. And maybe, the only thing that would stop him coming into our team and never going out of it is the fact that we have William Saliba, because he's at that level so far. And like you say, he may drop a bit, but his previous record at his club, I think he might have that behind him now. So
it's going to be a fascinating thing to see what Mikel does. Do you bring Saliba in out cold, having not played, against the best center forward in football, or do you keep the guy in who's hot? I mean, for me, you bring Saliba in. It's not a conversation, but we're going to have that conversation later this pod. Clive, so look, and it is just a testament again. Nkapie got on in this game late, but no Kai, no Odegaard, no Saliba, no White, right?
No stress.
No stress. Well, some stress, but not much stress. Leo and Martinelli not starting, and you just look, you go away to a tough place and you wind up winning 2-0. Before we get to the Martinelli and the Leo thing, which will be a big chunk of the conversation, let's just quickly do the Gyokeres conversation. I'm not going to sit here and pretend this was a brilliant performance, but he does have 4 shots in, 64 minutes, something like that. Let me just get that exactly right. Yeah, 64 minutes, 4 shots. He has a diving header that I thought was really encouraging, because we all heard about the heading, and I thought he did a good job to show the urgency to get there. The moment that obviously stands out is when he's played in behind and he has one, I think, sort of poor touch where he can't get it far enough out of his feet to run onto it, and it takes him wide and he winds up with a weaker shot than he'd like on his left foot. Thierry Henry did some analysis of it where he got pretty stuck in about why it's poor and why he should have gotten out in front of his defender and cut across him. And look, Thierry Henry is the best to ever do it. And sometimes I think when you're the best to ever do it, you're like, just do what I would have done. There is also the problem of being like, every single event should be analyzed through the lens of the perfect thing to have done in that event. Let's make it clear. Football is mostly about chances that go begging. It's mostly about moves that don't result in goals, even for the absolute best players. So that's that. I always bring it up, but I think it's important. Mohamed Salah always leads the league, or Haaland, one of the two of them, in big chances missed, because you get a lot of chances when you're good, but you miss more than you make. It's just how it works in football. Clive, I am not going to be someone who sticks the boot in on our best ever player. I don't think the analysis was too sharp. I don't think it was cruel. I just think it was overanalyzing a single moment in the game. But you want to just generally make some observations about Gyokeres and maybe that particular analysis that's doing the rounds?
Yeah, you just got to score. If you don't score, then you're open to analysis, right? So Martinelli's first touch on his goal wasn't great, but he fixed it.
His finish isn't good at all.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the funny thing. The keeper makes it work.
His first touch wasn't good. Didn't get out in front of him enough from the header. But the player thought he was going to nick it, and he drags it away and goes through. And no one cares about his other touches. You know why? Because the ball's in the back of the net. Right? And it's as simple as that. On Gyokeres' touches, I thought they were fine. I thought they were his touches. So we're getting to know him now. He doesn't always look smooth in his touches, but it's all about where he wants to get to. And I don't think if that was Madueke running through, I think Madueke chops in front, because he's going to have the speed to create that distance to chop in front. Gyokeres is not as quick as Madueke. He's not as quick as Thierry Henry. And so the picture's different for that player.
Yeah.
He's trying to bring it to the area. And what he's really focused on, mate, if I'm honest with you, is the touch before the finish. And I always look at his last touch before the shot. Because when we talk about ball striking, his ability to put that ball where he wants it to get the strike is what I'm looking for with him. Because that's the repeatable thing. Right? So, and what he did, which I was really encouraged by, he didn't get the goal, but it didn't bother me. His last touch creates the angle for his left foot to go across the goalkeeper. So when I see that, I think, you know what you're doing, son. It didn't work out this time. You're not looking quite as sharp as when we saw him in Lisbon, Elliot. Not looking quite as quick, but that will come. Some people say to me in my comments, say, Clive, when's he going to get fit? Are you still making excuses for him? Oh, mate, I've seen him run quicker, so I'm presuming he's not fit. Well, I've seen him with my own eyes, right? So, and he's playing a lot of minutes, and the manager recognised that. That's why he took him off, because he knows he needs him again. So we've only got one player, so we've got to work with him, probably not overtrain him, because Kai's not here. Do you see what I mean? And before you know it, we're going to have other players, midfielders playing up there, which is where you were last season. And so I was not worried about it. It's just classic. It's why I read this, but I totally agree. I would have said the same thing. It's why Glenn Hoddle struggled as a coach, because he was too good. I remember there's a scene of him showing David Beckham how to take free kicks. And he goes, you do it like this. He stuck it top corner. Didn't quite crush David Beckham's confidence, because he knows how to strike a ball. But it's that scenario when you have God-given ability. You're literally, Thierry Henry has been the best player in the world. You can't help but see things through how you would do it. Gyokeres, Thierry Henry would not have gone for that diving header on the back post. I'm telling you, he had the ability to, but that's not his chosen finish. His chosen finish is that finish. That's where he made his reputation. Left-hand side, running in behind, open body out slot. The reason he can open his body out, because he's there 15 minutes before anybody else is. Do you see what I mean? Because he's a quicker athlete. Gyokeres isn't. Thierry Henry running on the right-hand side is not at home the same way. Do you see what I mean? And there are certain positions on the pitch that's just not your optimal position to finish. So I thought it's just analysis, Elliot. We as Arsenal people have got to try, I struggle with this, I'm going to say these words knowing I could be hypocritical, try to be less sensitive about these things. And it's very difficult, right? When you see people, particularly from the northwest of England, driving him to these discussions, we have to be less sensitive. We have to I was really encouraged by his performance. It was different to what I'm used to. It doesn't fit my eye naturally, but he's a threat. And every time I looked at the screen, he had two people around him. And if he's not a threat, he has one person around him. That threat is very important for space. We just haven't got people all on the pitch yet to take advantage of what he actually offers.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I could very easily look at it and say, you know what I like? I like the run. I like he's leaning at the halfway line. I like he stays on side. I like that we found the run. These are growing pains, but it's a good sign, right? We found the run of the guy in behind. That's what we want to do. I do want to be clear, too. Like, I've done some TV, not like important TV, but there's production meetings. You strategize what you're going to talk about. These guys get in their ear, hey, we're going to re-review that Gyokeres missed goal opportunity. That's going to be one of the segments we do, guys, so be prepared to talk about that. And they're teed up to talk about it, and they make it a thing. And so then they know, like, all right, we got to get stuck in on this moment. And that's kind of how these shows work. Otherwise they just sit there bantering like we do, and we got that covered.
Elliot, I've got to object there. I think you've done yourself a disservice. I think you've done a lot of important TV. I got a very nice deal on a camera that I don't think I would have got anywhere else if you hadn't pitched it.
Well, and that's because it can take pictures of horses that wind up looking like moths, which is a real skill.
Look it up on the internet.
We are very, very, very overdue to praise Martinelli to the rafters, to praise Leo, to praise Mikel for the subs. So we'll do that. I want to say one quick thing. I think the Rice yellow card on 7 minutes really impacted this game. That may seem like I'm being too much of a tactico or a hipster, but I don't think this was a good Rice game. And I think he's a player who has to be able to play with his Roy of the Rovers style and, collide into people. And he was on his last thread with that referee by halftime. He was nearly there. Like, if this was a Premier League referee, they would have been giggling with glee at sending him off, right? So I just think we saw a Rice who had to manage the situation after that, and I don't think that helped in particular. So one thing to note. Let's talk brands, and then we'll talk finishers. Yes, they're called finishers. I know, it's an outrage. Okay, first thing we're going to tell you about is NordVPN. NordVPN is a really easy one to talk about because everybody asks me about it and everybody uses it at this point. If you click on a video and it says not available in your location, what if you could just click a button on your phone or your computer or your tablet, and then that video is immediately available in your location? Whether that video is just some social media video you want to watch, or the match reviews of the day show, or a streaming service or a streaming show that's not available in your area, or a streaming service that costs less somewhere else than it does where you are, you can use it It's easy. It has really high speed. It's really high rated, and we have a really good value on it. Works on every device. Just do it. And by the way, it does threat protection too. So if you're on a dodgy stream, you're covered. It's nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision. You'll get a discount off the Nord regular price and 4 months on top. But it's 30 days risk-free, so you can just try it and see what you think. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. 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 Do it now. And also, Indeed is the hiring platform to use. It's that simple. We are in a really weird hiring moment, a difficult hiring moment, both for people who are trying to get hired and for organizations that are trying to hire, because it's harder and harder to find real candidates who fit your needs, and it's hard for those candidates to find the right jobs, and that's because of all the AI and all the spam and all the filtering and all the nonsense and the fact that there's a million different websites. With Indeed, you find the right candidates, which is a better mix because it's a better experience for the people applying and it's a better experience for the hirer, which just starts the relationship out better. But with sponsored job posts, you jump to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, and the difference it makes is massive. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. In the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So there's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners to this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Just go to Indeed.com/ArsenalVision right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed's all you need. Clive, is it up that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Clive, may I read to you what Mikel Arteta said about subs?
Okay.
On what he tells our subs, they are at least equally important or more important. We have discussed that the finishers are going to be more important this season, sometimes more than the starters. We can change the game there, especially with the intensity that we play, especially when the team starts to drop off. And I'm very pleased to see that. Piero comes in and plays 6 minutes, the first 6 minutes he's played, and Christian is the same. That's Norgard, Nkapie and Norgard. That's the attitude I want from all of us. And then when being asked, did you call them finishers rather than substitutes? Yes, I did, and I love it, because I don't like other words to describe the players. I think if the game is developing, they're going to be more important in many minutes, so the quality of those minutes is going to dictate the quality of our season for sure. And it's funny how different sports can have totally different attitudes, because people have been like, finishers, oh, why is he calling it that? That's dumb. You know, I think it was... Who was it? There was some wannabe former striker who now plays in like the 4th division who got all mad about this. I can't remember who it was, but
Charlie Austin, was it him?
Charlie Austin, that's it. No mark, nothing strike. Anyway, played a better level than I did. Let's put it that way. But baseball, because I get told stick to baseball all the time. So I'll bring up baseball, which is a sport I know almost nothing about. But in baseball, there's a pitcher called the closer. And some of the most famous pitchers in baseball history, Mariano Rivera, one of them, closer. They are the pitchers that come in and pitch 1 inning, the last inning, to shut the game down. And in baseball, they are celebrated for this role, and sometimes extremely well compensated for this role as well, to pitch 1 inning, sometimes 2. That's it at the most. In football, somehow, if you're on the subs bench, it's regarded as minimizing you. But here's the point. Yeah, if you're Butler or Yedege and you're Raheem Sterling, you're not a finisher. You're just trying to soak some minutes out of the legs of the starters. But if you're Leo Trossard and you're Gabriel Martinelli and you're Kai Havertz and you're Piero Nkapie and you're Christian Norgard, these are players that are finishers because they can start at an elite level and they have a specific role to win a game, and they won the game. So before we come on to celebrating the individuals, Clive, if you're going to praise the squad, I think we've got this wrong. It's not about rotation. It's about using players in the game to suit the game environment, and that does make them finishers. And if you want to get upset about language, be my guest, but I think this makes complete sense.
Yeah, so where do we go with that question?
It's not really a question, just a comment, and you can say whatever you want.
So I will say, this is something that I have spoken about for many years here, about my liking for rugby and how they use substitutes in that game, right? So they have 8 substitutes, right? So they normally have forwards and backs, and South Africa are the best at this, and they were the first ones to go like 7 forwards, 1 back, and they called them the bomb squad. And when they came on, they changed the game. And Eddie Jones, I know I coached that Mikel Arteta has spent many hours with. He was the first one to coin the phrase, in my experience, coined the phrase finishers. And I brought this to the podcast because I thought when we went to the 5-sub rule, I felt that this was a part of the game that we hadn't really analysed yet and used properly yet. And we didn't really have the squad to do it yet, right? So hence why I don't care about starting 11s. We can change 5 players. What matters is your ability to see the momentums in the game and adapt. Have you got the tools in your toolbox to adapt to what the game is showing you, and can you make those changes to impact the game? From the very early days of years ago, so I mentioned here before, when Alex Ferguson had 4 forwards, and when York and Cole went off, Shane and Solskjaer came on, and we had to beat them twice, and it felt like it was really hard. Those things stay in you, right? So have the ability to make changes like this is so important. And so I think Renee Slager's the women's manager. I think she calls them game changers. It's just another name for people to make sure. And what happened in the Champions League final? 2 of the game changers come on, goal and assist, won a trophy for the second time in our history. This is just sports. This is sport. Mate, in the non-league where I coach, I wouldn't be calling them finishers. They'd be subs, right? It's just the environment that you're in. When you're in an elite environment, when you've got multi-millionaire sportsmen that could choose other clubs to be, you need to keep them included. So how do you keep them included? By letting them know they're going to have a role to play. Again, sometimes in some squads, they're told, like in the tournament, particularly with Serena Vigla in the summer, she told everybody what they're going to be, what their roles were. You're going to be a starter. If this player's out, you'll be if you're on the bench, if this player's out, you're going to come on. And for some of the bench players, they knew the minute they were going to come on. Right, so it's us who have to mature. Mate, they're just subs. They're just on the bench. That's who they are. Well, if you don't want to mature your thinking, then you're not looking. Right? How many games Liverpool won in the latter stages of the games recently? It's their ability to change games, add more speed, add more devilment to affect teams when they're tired. And so there was a debate about the 5-sub rule when it was coming in, and I was all for it. You know I was, Elliot. But it favours the bigger clubs with the bigger squads. Well, guess what? Yeah. We are now one of the bigger clubs with the bigger squads. And we can make changes to kill games. I wish we had, and people will laugh, but I wish we had Christian Norgard fit and available for Anfield. Because I don't think they sliced first late in the game when we were tiring and we had to keep certain people on, right? So we have that ability, and call them whatever you like. The most important thing is we have dressing room harmony, and those people feel included and connected. And that is the message that's coming out of the group at the moment. That may change towards the end of the season when you get into winning time and you've had 2 months sitting on your ass because we're trying to win something, and you realise where you are in the hierarchy. Okay, I need to make a change because I don't think I'm going to convince him. And then we have a new selling strategy. That will change. But right now, inclusion, being inclusive, is the key, because we are playing, I will say just for Scott, we are playing every 3 days from now till Christmas. So we don't need them all.
3 times a week, Clive. We're playing 3 times a week.
So yeah, I'm sure Scott's just smashed his radio. So yeah, 3 times every 3 days from now till Christmas. And this is I'm all for this, mate. This is just high performance language. That's all it is.
Yeah. Paul?
Look, the word sub or substitute comes from a time when you could make one change to a player who was injured and you were substituting that player. And the game's totally different, as Clive has outlined. If we were picking a word today, it would not be substitute. I don't know what it would be. Maybe it wouldn't be finisher, but it wouldn't be substitute. You got 5 players, you got 3 chances. It's tactical, it's strategic. You're not going like for like. It's not a substitute. So you don't like his word. Okay, come up with another word that embodies the fact that you're making a strategic change in the most important part of the game, in important games.
Paul, you're now you can change up to half of the outfield players.
Yeah.
You know?
In the most important part of the game, unless you're having an easy game, the last 20 to 25 minutes is literally the most important part of the game. You can be 1-0 up, 1-0 down, level. It don't matter. The most important 25 minutes of the game is about to happen. Everybody wants to start. There's no getting away from that. Everybody wants to be picked in the starting lineup. On the other hand, if you get pulled off the pitch at 60 minutes every game or 65 minutes every game, you're going to get pretty cheesed off too, because you're being told you're not one of the most important players to play in the most important part of the game. So it's not just about, oh, well, the subs don't like being subs. The starters don't like getting yanked because the fun's just getting started at that point. And in this game, the fun was just getting started and players got yanked off the pitch. And they won't love that. And that's the nature of football, because the most important part of the game was about to happen and we brought on the subs and hey presto.
Yeah, and this is the beautiful thing. Because Leo Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli have been two of the most important players of this era, but I think they are widely regarded as players who maybe were getting towards the end of their relevance to this era. Both were talked about as possible sale potentials this summer, and I know that there's huge affection for both these players, and especially Gabriel Martinelli, and you know, he was a player that I absolutely adored, but started to think maybe the level of the team is moving past him. But I think this is what's so beautiful about football. Sometimes you can find a role in a team that lets you really thrive and express the quality you have and rediscover your quality. That is not go out there and play 90 minutes on the left wing for a team that needs to win the Premier League and the Champions League, and if you don't deliver every game, you're the villain, but is instead a chance to be a hero in critical moments where things like your pace and your relentless running and your defensive awareness can really be celebrated. And I am so happy because whatever you think of these players, especially Gabriel Martinelli, he is so easy to like and root for. And Mikel was full of praise for him, as he should be. First of all, he says, if the boss will get an assist for his Martinelli substitution, it's always very difficult emotionally to leave players out. I know how much they want to play this competition and what it means to them. By the way, that is, I'm sure, a message to other players like Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri. Every time you give the lineup, you are disappointing a lot of players. But to have that experience, I looked on the bench, I looked at him, and in his eyes, I could see that he was ready. Leo as well. They play with a confidence and that connection between them as well, and it's really good. I think that's going to help us a lot for the season. And if Gabby had a point to prove, I was sure that Gabby was going to react like that. He raised the level to Gabby, and he was going to do that. He's such a mentality. He's a player that is constantly willing to learn and improve himself, very demanding with himself. That's the moment that hopefully is going to give him the confidence again to go, because he's done a stunning play. I'm going to keep reading some Mikel quotes. I'm sorry, Clive, but they're so good. On him, fully deserved it. I adore Gabby, his attitude, his commitment, his positivity, what he's willing to do for the team. Externally, we certainly value all the qualities that he has and brings to the team, and I'm so happy that today he was important in the two actions. He was also celebrated for his goal by the team. You could see how much it meant to them, and Mikel said, that's the spirit. That's why I really enjoy every single day working with them and being part of this team, because the way they look after each other is genuine and they really want the best for each other. They recognize someone that works every day in a manner that Gabby does, and you can go through struggles or moments, and recognizing that and having the capacity to connect with him, I think it would mean a lot to him. I just love that Mikel was so open in his comments there, and I think said more than maybe he's inclined to do, but it gives you the picture of
fulsome in his
Isn't
comments.
fulsome the opposite? Fulsome is when it's
Buxom.
not.
That's what I'm thinking of. Buxom.
I don't think that's it. Anyway, Clive, rescue us here. I think what he means to the group, what that goal means to him, and this role being one that he can really grab with both hands, I think it's potentially a very significant moment for him.
Yeah, well, he's shown that he can impact on the bench, which he's done before. We just forgot, right? I can remember when we beat City 1-0, he came back from a hamstring early, and he came on at half-time, and that game changed by his presence, and he scored the winning goal with a deflection. So he has been that player in the past. There has been times when he's starting every single week that his performances have dipped and flattened out a little bit. Guess what? We just bought a couple of players that can play in that position, Madueke and Eze. Mate, better start running about. Do you see what I mean? And that's the truth. It's called competition. How dope. You know, his goal was great. We've seen it before. We've seen it in Seville. We've seen it in Madrid. So we know he can do that. But you know what? I really loved the assist. I really loved it because as he received that ball on the touchline, what did he do? Did he wait or did he go? He went, mate. He went for him, and the guy was on his heels. He took him on the outside and found the person in the box. That's all it is. Be direct. You're a runner, run. Honestly, it's that simple. You may not have the skills of a Saka or an Eze, but you can run, mate, with anybody. So run. Now, be direct. Be that player. I think Madueke has really shown, and his game is just the same. Simple running and carrying, but he does it with real aggression and speed. And now we have Martinelli as well. So there will be a period, whether he starts on Sunday, I'm not sure. We'll probably get to that late in the podcast, but he'll start a couple of games soon, and I hope he does, because it's key that he feels connected. The same rules. I think that one of the biggest issues that European football has is the amount of games that are played, particularly by the elite players who are also playing internationals. And so the way you keep them happy is to make sure they're not overplayed and their careers don't get shortened, because that's when other leagues in Spain and Saudi Arabia can offer them more money for less work. And that's what you don't want. Anyone who can get more money for less work, they may take it, particularly if the competition on the sporting side of things is of a similar level. And that's not the case today, the highest levels in the Premier League. But don't assume that everyone's going to stay and watch their careers get run out by injury. We have to make sure we have alternatives. We have to make sure as a club we want to reach the highest level of European football, the highest level. We are not going to do that by having the first 11 and having nicey players that are not being pushed to their absolute limits. And Martinelli has responded exactly as the manager would hope he'd respond. And I thought he was eye-openingly good when he came on.
He was really good at both ends, switched on. His assist might be better than his goal, because too often when he's on the left, he doesn't find a way past his man. He doesn't find the right move. The way he gets by his guy to the byline and doesn't just smash it, but picks out Leo was brilliant. The funny thing with the goal, it shows you why football is such a cruel sport, because against PSG, I think he took his chance well, and it's a good save. Hits it low, across the keeper, exactly what you're meant to do. There's a defender closing in on him. And Donnarumma gets down and makes a great save. Donnarumma was great in that tie. And it's not a goal, and people get on him about it. In this game, the keeper lets it get under him. But you know what? He deserves it for his endeavor and his touch and his running and what he did, and I'm so happy for him. And he feels like a player that needed it to go for him, because he's had other moments where I don't think he did much wrong and it didn't go for him. And Mikel talked about his confidence. And when the manager's talking about your confidence, it's not just things fans are seeing. It's real, right? And this is great. And then what does he do later in the game with that confidence? He beats his man dynamically to the byline, gets past him, sets up Leo. Leo controls, touch, score. Again, another thing. Last season, every time we kicked a ball and it deflected wide of the post. You know what I mean? Every time the ball hit the chest of the opponent, it bounced into our goal. This season, against Forest, the Chris Wood chest bounces. Raya gets to it. Leo takes a shot. It deflects. It goes in. These are the little margins. A little different is Martinelli takes a shot. It gets under the keeper instead of the keeper getting down brilliantly to stop it. Sometimes in football, it's not the things you control. It's things you don't control that make the difference, because it's a low-scoring sport. So, Paul, a huge moment for Martinelli. I think a moment that will, first of all, hopefully keep him really energized and charged up for the role that he has in the team right now. But also, it's not like Eze was brilliant in this game. Martinelli is going to push, and this is the beautiful thing about a deep squad. Bukayo Saka is going to come back. What's Nani's role going to be? They are going to push each other hard to be the one that gets to be out there from the start.
Yeah. Look, I like his finish more than you do.
Okay.
I don't think it was a quality finish. I think he did the right thing. He got it low, hard enough.
It's not as wide as he probably wanted it to be of the keeper. Look, he goes in. Who cares?
Well, I don't know. If you go wide, you better have precision. If you're playing the numbers, you play it just to the one side of the keeper so he can't get down to it. Okay, it doesn't look pretty. It's a bit flubbed. I think he did if you were coaching a player, an attacker, you'd say, put it low and hard near the keeper and don't go for accuracy. You're just on the pitch. It's his first touch. I'm fine with it. I'm not saying it's brilliant.
I don't want to be cast as the one saying it's bad, so I am going to concede the point here, because I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying he gets a little bit of the fortune that he hadn't been getting. You know what I'm saying?
Paul's got a good point there. He went by the keeper's feet, which is the hardest place to get to. The keeper's got to collapse his body and try to hit the floor. Whether he tried to do that or not, I don't care. But what I do like is he accelerated into that shot. So he's accelerating into that touch rather than falling away. You heard me speak about when he falls away without the acceleration. So he accelerated in, bang. Then he fell away afterwards. He got the power and the keeper couldn't react. So that works for me, mate. It's in the net, right? It works for me.
Yep.
And I want to see more situations where we use Martinelli in this mode. Clive and I have chatted a little bit on previous pods that he's a very reasonable substitute for Gyokeres at that particular moment of the game. And okay, he wasn't playing striker, but that was pretty close to a strikerish running off the back into space. Oh, and by the way, have a look at Marino's pass to get us out of trouble on the right-hand side, across to Rice, Martinelli for the assist to Trossard. It's a fantastic sweeping
it's a big switch. It's a big switch. Yeah, really good,
under
big,
pressure.
quick switch. Yep.
He does a
really
lot of that stuff, and like it's not beautiful, constructed number 10 play. I will grant you. But he has 3 or 4 of those moments where he does actually put in a ball that opens up the game. And, that's how we got our goal.
Well, and you know what, Paul? I think there's something here for Noni, too, which is that I think you're right. Martinelli, with his pace and his relentless running, is such a good finisher, right, for the last 20 minutes of a game. You know who else has the attributes to be a great finisher is Noni. Right? Because of that relentless carrying, driving, running, pushing. And so if Bukayo Saka isn't a guy we want playing 90 minutes, and if Eze, from a physical profile, isn't going to challenge a defense for 90 minutes, you have 2 guys that really can. But you also have Leo
something on Madueke? I think you're right. But I think the issue with him is he'd have to make his interesting adjustment. Because if you look at his touch map, I'm absolutely hypnotized by it. This game, the last game, I'm going to look at a few more. All his touches are exactly where you picture they should be, within a 5-yard strip of the touchline. It's beautiful. Like billions of them, all along the touchline and around kind of the corner flag towards the box and in the box. It's like this L shape. He doesn't come in field, so he'd have quite an adjustment. He'd have to change quite a bit of his game. Obviously, he has attributes. But he has the most decided game, like it meets the eye test. He's so clear about what he's on the pitch for.
He is a winger.
Yeah. He has paint on his boots, Elliot. That's the phrase you're looking for.
Can Saka move inside, or can Eze play with... Nani's a winger. And I will say, if we made Scott angry before with anything, we're going to make him angriest now with the billions of touches on the touchline. That's definitely not the statistic.
We'll be stopping Clive, this podcast immediately.
Immediately. The social post is being written as we speak. Clive, the Leo performance, I just feel like he is a player that confounds analysis sometimes, but you know what he does? He influences games. He comes on against Forest, he gets an assist. He comes on here, he gets an assist and a goal. And it's just, you're never going to be in bad shape using a guy who seems to always find a way to give you end product. And I do think attitude's an interesting thing, right? Because in Martinelli, you have a guy who always has a smile on his face, who always is so positive. And in Leo, you have a guy who seems angry all the time. And they both seem to find a way to have it motivate them to give what they need to.
Yeah, I thought he looked happy in this game. I'll be honest with you. I thought
Goal
he looked really good. I thought he looked really sharp and really good. And I'm really enjoying this team. I was talking to Tim this morning about the women's team, but also the men's team, and the focus that they have at the moment in all of their actions. So everything doesn't come off right, but it's the reaction to something that's gone wrong, right? So Leo in this game looked just smooth across the pitch, really bright. When he starts moving like that, he's hard to find. He read the assist beautifully, helped it on. And you look at him and think, oh, mate, you got to start next game. But we've been around that path, haven't we? When he starts next game, we don't see him for 45 minutes, and then he gets hooked. Comes on next game angry and a man of the match, And then this is the cycle that we're used to. But this whole thing at the moment, it's going to be interesting to see how Arteta manages these things, because there was a really nice interview with Ali McCoist pre-game, and Ali McCoist, for those who don't know, is an ex-Rangers player, works for TNT Sport. Mikel Arteta played for Rangers back in the day, so there's a kinship there. They weren't on the same team, there's a kinship there, right? So, and to see the interview where Mikel was relaxed, he was really opening up. You find it on TNT Sports YouTube. And one of the things he said, he spoke about the PSG game, and he said, if I had Kai, Gabriel, Jesus, and Saka, who was not injured, who knows? We could have won it last year. He knows he would have been really close. We were close anyway to getting past PSG into Milan. It was one game too many. That's how close the margins are. That word we spoke to last year, Elliot, about condition, being in the right condition, not being on the pitch, but being on the pitch in the right condition. That's what we're trying to do. We haven't done that yet. We haven't done that last piece yet. So Leo, Martinelli, Mosquera, all of them, Norgard, are all critical to us to be on the pitch in the right condition with our star players available to be there when it really, really counts. And that's it for me. The focus on the details, the focus on making sure we're there when it counts, it seems massive. I can't stop looking at it. There's a moment in this game when late in the game, there was a corner, Big Gabby was in the box. He was the furthest man forward. They broke forward. Within a second, it felt like we had 10 people behind the ball in zone 14 competing for it. That stuff tells you about our focus, the reaction to adversity, how quickly we get behind the ball. I think anyone who's not buying in, we'd know already. Seriously, we would know. It'd be clear because their focus is so high that someone would stand out. At this moment in time, everyone's on the boat so far.
Yep. As a reminder, there was a nasty clash of heads in this game between Gyokeres and Gabriel. According to Mikel, they're both fine, so that's good news there. I think we put a bow on this game and shift gears to get a quick preview in for the Manchester City game coming up on Sunday. But just as a note, again, this was 1.3 to 0.3 XG, and since the United game, we've conceded 0.2 XG to Leeds, 0.5 XG at Liverpool, 0.2 XG to Nottingham Forest, and 0.3 XG at Atleti. We've conceded 0 goals to United, 0 goals to Leeds, 1 to Liverpool, 0 to Forest, 0 to Athletic Club. It's just really impressive. And the extent to which it will be celebrated will depend on whether we get enough goals to achieve what we want. But this team has it when it comes to the way it controls that part of the pitch. As of time of recording, Manchester City have not even played their Champions League tie yet. They play Napoli at home on Thursday and then play Arsenal away on Sunday, which I'm sure Pep won't mention. We won't hear anything about that. But this is a bit of a fortuitous scheduling scenario for us in this game, I would say. We don't have any update on Saka or Saliba, but Saliba was on the bench in Spain, so I would imagine he's fit to come in. So I'll start with you, Clive. City have not looked convincing in their duels in midfield and in their defensive organization, but the attack does have the best XG in the Premier League, and Haaland is in a little bit of frightening form. How are you sending us out for this game?
Let's see who's fit, right? I would play Saliba. We're talking about somebody who is the best defender in the world, so let's not pretend. Even looking at the squad photo, there's Saliba. He's like the biggest, strongest man. He's like, okay, why would you leave him on the bench?
I still think Gabby would win that fight, but okay.
Why would you leave him on the bench for any longer than you actually need to? You see what I mean? This is, again, back to the levels. This is Erling Haaland, the best centre forward in the world. What do Man City want? Right? So very simple, right? So if Saliba's fit, he plays. And as for the fullbacks, I think it'd be a similar back four. We have a game in midweek afterwards where we can rest people. So I think Jurrien Timber looks like an 80-minute player to me at the moment, but those 80 minutes are brilliant. The last 10 he guts out. Right? So we've got a player that can take that burden off him, but he's not around at the moment. So, but I do think Mosquera may end up ending the game as a fullback if we are fatiguing in that area. And we've got left-siders to die for. I thought Hincapi looks quite sharp, doesn't he? He looks like it could be a problem for the referee's notebook. Shall we say?
Yeah.
So there's what's the space there. And the midfield, I think Odegaard returns. I do. I think we go back to what our normal midfield will be, with Mendy and Rice. And the front three, I'm not sure where Saka is at the time of recording. I'm not sure where he is. I think he's due back this week. The difference I find with him versus, say, a Saliba is it's a sprinting position, a high-intensity position. So you might want to be a bit more cautious with that one, considering he's had a couple of hamstrings now, though it's a different one. But if he turns up in the training videos anytime now, we'll all be picking him, right? Because he's quality, right? So, but again, they can share the game, so it's not a drama. I don't know if you're going to talk about Eze, but I thought I looked at Eze game versus the Forest game. I think he had 43 touches versus Forest. He had 40 touches versus Bilbao. Different game, different context. You reminded me quite astutely of how many duels he won. We didn't buy Eze to win duels. And there's people wondering where he's standing. I think there are opportunities to develop him by how we pass to him. Do you remember the old Ben White to Saka pass, inverted inside and Saka rolls inside, and that pass we used to do, so Saka wouldn't receive it standing still on the touchline, getting booted up his arse? We need to do similar things for Eze to allow him to flow inside and be more impactful, because when he flows inside, he looks like a different player completely. He sees the pitch, he's got a range of pass, he can combine short 1-2s and get it back again. When he gets it back in the crowd scene, he's got soft feet and he can progress from there. But we've got to give him the ball so in a way that he can get momentum rather than giving it to him standing still. So what he'll do, manipulate it, protect it, and drop it back. That's not what we really want to see all the time. You know, I understand control, but can we get that angle pass into him from Calafiori off the touchline into him so he can travel in? And so these things we need to learn and get him going again. Don't listen to the narratives around him being a left winger. If you look at the heat maps for both games, which I did, there's not much difference between the Forest game and the Bilbao game. You know, so it's about us giving more opportunities to travel through the thirds, really is. And so I would go with that. I'd go with the similar front three we've had, but maybe Saka off the bench if he's fit. And then we've got ability to speed up off the bench, haven't we? You know, so I'll go that way.
It's tough. There's a part of me that just says, if Saka's fit, start him.
Yeah.
He's Bukayo Saka. But we've seen Bukayo Saka when he's not fully powered up, and like a lot of amazing players, similar to Declan Rice, you just don't see the same Bukayo Saka. But if you said to me, we're going to have one half chance to create a goal or score a goal, I still back him to be the one that does it. I mean, you've always called this out, Clive. He's the guy that does the first big thing that gets us the goal to send us on our way.
But this I just want to say, as we're recording, we just have not even seen a picture of him for a few days. Do you see what I mean? We don't know where he is. And that could change literally, that could change in like an hour or two. You know what I mean? And we'll see a picture and we'll all be picking him, right? Because he's the best player in our team, right? So, simple.
Can we focus on one area in particular, Paul, just quickly? And then I want to talk a little bit about conservative approach versus aggressive approach. The position I want to ask you about is left back.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Miles Lewis-Skelly derby, right? The stay humble derby. Miles Lewis-Skelly not getting a lot of minutes at the moment. Nkapie is now here. Calafiori has become the starter, but Calafiori, a player, he did take a pretty brutal kick on his Achilles, by the way, against Athletic Club. Not necessarily renowned for his defensive work, although I think it's been much better this season and not a huge source of an issue. But what do you think about left back and, you know, where Miles is at the moment, if there's a chance he might come in for this game with everything in the background of this rivalry? How do you think about that position?
It's an interesting one just looking at the left side, because Eze and Calafiori are not what I would line up as the most robust defensive unit when we're pushed back in that side, and I do think that's an area Man City are going to target. So the coach...
But we should mention where they can be targeted too. United had big joy down both wide spaces, both touch lines. I think City's defensive edges are very fragile.
Yes. So on the other hand, there's just a big choice to make here, and I think you got to look at pairs of players. And yeah, look, Lewis-Skelly seems to be a step down at the moment, and Calafiori, you know, one point I wanted to make on this conservative lineup we had, air quotes on conservative, and the same as with Liverpool, is I don't think the manager ever thinks it's that conservative a lineup if he's got Calafiori in the team with the license to roam into midfield. In neither game was it the deciding factor by any means, but obviously that's his free man roaming into midfield, which shakes things up, and you've got a lot of movement with Marino, Rice and Zubimendi all kind of rotating with each other to some degree, at least in pairs. There's a lot of fluidity there, and I think that's the manager does not see that as a conservative pick anytime it's those three guys plus Calafiori. The Miles Lewis-Skelly one feels, it's one of those you need a few more data points, but it definitely feels like he's kind of put him a level down, that if when Calafiori is fit at the moment, it's Calafiori. And we do have to remember, if we're true to our concept of finishers, that this in particular, this Man City game is going to be a big game for who starts, who comes on at 70 minutes. And on the left-hand side, look, the manager could pick Martinelli after the goal and use that as the excuse and lean on his defensive nous to start. Or he, to your point, it's at home. we need to go at them. We need to take the initiative. We start with Eze. Martinelli comes on at 70 minutes. Calafiori could be in all sorts of trouble with yellow cards at that stage of the game if that's the area they're targeting. And Miles Lewis-Skelly comes on there. And, the one thing you would say about Miles Lewis-Skelly is he might have a career for this next season of being the guy that comes on at 65, 70 minutes and plays really important minutes. And of course has a number of starts, but it definitely feels like he's down the pecking order, and I'm sure that'll be difficult for him because last year was a meteoric rise where he was never out of the team once he was in it, and he played great. But Arteta, for all the conservative labels, likes Calafiori because the guy might do anything at any moment as a midfielder, as an attacker, as a winger, as a striker, and he wants him on the pitch. And I think he wants his toys. Against Man City, he wants to bring his toys, and one of his toys is Calafiori. At this stage, another of them is Eze. And if he can get Odegaard on the pitch, he'll go with a very attacking lineup. I think Saka is an absolute candidate for a substitute role, or rather a finisher role, coming on at 70 minutes.
Yeah. Clive, I, as you know, bristled against the claim of conservatism at Anfield for so many reasons. Firstly, we watched the game, and I don't think it was a conservative approach. Secondly, I think just what was available to select. Thirdly, I think the actual fixture itself and what it demanded. This is a slightly different one because City look very vulnerable, but City are themselves very potent. And Mikel Arteta has not, in his time at Arsenal, ever demonstrated that he wants to get into basketball games and just go punch for punch with teams. And certainly if you go punch for punch with Erling Haaland, you can wind up flat on your back. We've had some success against them controlling games, keeping it tight and trying to nick it, here and there. But people get frustrated with that approach. I think they'll be looking to see if Odegaard is back and can play, and if it's Ethan, or are we going to go Rice, Marino, and Zubi again? And people are going to be looking to see, that area of the pitch in particular, but also just whether we are aggressive in our attempts to take advantage of what's regarded as Manchester City's frailty. Now, the irony, of course, is I regard one of their biggest frailties as their midfield weakness and inability to win duels and control games. I think that they can get physically boshed out of games with Reiners, who's not particularly strong in that area, whoever they want to play in the other midfield other than Rodri. I think we can have a big advantage there. I'm torn on this one. How do you see it? How do you see our ability to not be seen as conservative, but to actually address the strengths and weaknesses of Manchester City?
Yeah, so the two home games that I've seen, we've looked really sharp and really progressive, and really our intent to play has been really, really positive. Like the Forest game was, I couldn't find anything wrong with it. Maybe left a goal on the table, that's it. All right, so I'm expecting us to play them. It's going to be interesting to see what he does, because he has a lot of respect for Pep and his ability to see our weaknesses, etc. But I think he feels more confident with the players that he has. I look at City's team and I go straight to fullbacks, Elliot. They got Kuzanov there, right? He is like, how can I say? He's like Romero playing right back. He just chases after rabbits, goes bang, bang, bang. I think you need someone that understands how to manipulate the ball against him. Got a bit of authority on it. I like the Eze matchup with him. You don't need a running race per se, because Kuzanov is really, really quick. We need someone who's got a brain, because he hasn't got one, right? So they played Nathan. I think that young kid O'Reilly, Nathan O'Reilly, I think his name is. He's a tall player, plays number 10 for the youth teams. He's come into the first team as a left back. He's very, very leggy. Well, they play Nori there. I'm not sure where he is at the moment. Both of them look nice, don't look robust. Don't look robust enough to handle us in our strongest area, right? So will they bring in Nathan Ake for this game? He came back late last game. He has a history of doing quite well at the Emirates when they won the league. When they went on to win the treble, actually, I think he came into their back four. They went to that back four, the centre-back four, and went from there and won the treble, right? So I think he may come in. They're going to want to be physical against us, right? So Guardiola, Nathan Ake, Diaz, Stones, which one? They're going to want to be physical with us. And I would, if I'm them. Don't rock up with Rico Lewis, mate, and Aiton Nori. If you do that, you could be in a bit of trouble, because you don't dominate the ball like you used to. You don't dominate areas like you used to. This isn't five-a-side, this is football. We'll make the pitch big and we'll run all over them. So the midfield three, Foden found himself in the 10. Are they going to do that experiment again? We'll watch tonight against Napoli and see. with Reinders and Rodri, and obviously they can all play. When you close your eyes, you can see everything they do. But apart from Rodri, when you close your eyes, what do they do running backwards? And that's the thing. Can we get them running backwards, right? So the big boy up front, he's on his game, right? It's clear to see. He's on his game. His battery's charged. He's ready to go. So, and he's going to bring his A game versus us because we don't like him and we told him. And our centre-backs are ready for him. You know, and they know they are the ones that can handle him. But even in the game when we handled him last year, he scored a beautiful header in the box. You know, so yeah, we're going to be on our game. But I'm hoping that we can show people, by the way, when we have got more of our players available, when we're at home, this is what we do. You know, and I'm really hopeful for that. But in the end, it's not about appeasing the pundits. It's about winning the marathon. That's what we've got to do. And because we dropped them points at Liverpool, we need to make sure we get the points against Man City and Newcastle. That's where my eyes are. It's a pair of games. If we do well we're set in a stretch of games to do really well. So very important game, Elliot.
And two of the most opposite games you could possibly hope to face, because I think physically Manchester City will struggle to compete with us. I think with Newcastle, it's always about, can you win the physical contest, or at least stay competitive in the physical contest without Joelinton hurting someone. Paul, just super quick, your key to success and key to failure. What's the one thing you regard as the thing we kind of must do to come out on top, and the thing we mustn't do?
The thing you'll win a lot of games with a strong defense. So that's got to pan out. We got to have a level of a platform that allows us to attack at home with our crowd behind us. It'll be a great occasion, a great day. So the attacking is kind of a given. So with our defense, and that's why I just have a slight... My eye goes to the left-hand side and Calafiori. I think you're right that we're going to go Calafiori and Eze. But there will be the need for Gabriel to provide a little bit of additional cover there, and that does stretch us a little bit at the back. But those are the choices you make. So that's got to hold up. I think, actually, you know, if I'm going to pick one thing, it's the bench. This will be a game won by the team that has the stronger starting lineup, but even more so, how does that last 20 minutes, 25 minutes play out? And I think our options could be great. I think it could well be Saka off the bench, Martinelli off the bench, and, you know, Marino playing a tactical role, if that's the nature of the game, to kind of get in there and battle for the last 10, 15. So I think in the end, it'll come down to, imagine that going, if we had to say some number of seasons from now, we will see ourselves as stronger than Manchester City. Like, they're dangerous, they can hurt you, but that our bench might be the more impressive bench to go into this derby with. I mean, that's amazing on the upside. The worry, you know, the one vulnerability is getting that left-hand side right. I think we agree who should start, but I'm sure when they draw up the tactics board, it's going to have a lot to do with our left-hand corner of the pitch and stretching us with Haaland runs and clever players on the right to get in that particular area.
They're not super well set up to attack it, ironically, because the player that I think I'd be scared about Calafiori facing would be a Doku, but Doku doesn't attack that side, right?
I was going to say Savinho, Elliot. I think they might play Savinho on that side.
He hasn't been playing at all.
He hasn't been playing, but if I'm them, if he's the one that made me think, because if I'm them, I'm thinking, I want that Calafiori staying at home. I don't want him floating around the pitch, flicking his Barney at me. I need him staying at home. I don't want him to get confident and striding through my midfield, because I ain't got the bodies to manage him. So I need to pin him back. They played Bernardo Silva in the last game in that position against United, where he would roll inside and overload Manchester United's two-man midfield. Job done, right? Game over. They're at home. It's not a problem for them, right? So, but against us, I'm not sure they're going to play Bernardo on the right wing. If they do, Calafiori's just going to munch him, right? So you need a sharper player, a ball player, sprinter. So he's either Oscar
Bob,
or or it's Savinho. I would go Savinho only because he's had a good game against us in that 2-2 game. So I've got a memory of him, right? So I want our fullbacks back at home, and I want our midfield to have their midfield and it's man for man, right? And we go man for man, but I need to keep their fullbacks off me, right? So that's what I would do, right? But Calafiori doesn't care, right? He just goes. Then we go man for man. We go Saliba on Haaland one-on-one, or Gabriel on Haaland one-on-one, or if it's Timber. So he hasn't got a dope to pick on back there, right? So, because they want it with him. Do you see what I mean? And so I do like the Calafiori pick. He hasn't got to end the game, Paul. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't got to end it. Because I'll tell you now that Hincapi, I think he's gonna be the left backer, if you see what I mean. And I think Calafiori will spend a bit more time potentially at centre back, because we can't keep playing Gabriel every single game, so that would be an interesting one for him to help keep him fit. That's just my shout anyway.
Paul, quickly.
I think they're going to try and get Bernardo Silva in that area of the pitch, the Calafiori area of the pitch, even if he's not right wing. Just for, you can just picture him trying to dribble into the penalty box in and around Calafiori, trying to make his legs look a little slow. That would, if you want to look where my fears are, they're going to try and make stuff happen in that area of the pitch with a fast winger potentially, and Bernardo Silva trying to cause havoc, twist us around, get in behind Calafiori, make his head swivel. You asked my dark thoughts. Those are my dark thoughts.
I think, look, this is really simple. They can't take the lead. Do not let them take the lead. If I noticed one thing in the United game, it was that they started to play off the ball, and then they just slaughtered United on the counter. I mean, Haaland's running in behind is relentless, and I think you want them feeling like they need to come on to you more and have the ball more, because when they lose possession, I don't think they have the ability to control games, and I think they lose possession a little more than they used to in midfield. Reiners is technically excellent, but physically, I'm not sure he's at the level. Who are they even going to play in midfield with him? Foden? Are they going to go Foden, Reiners, and
did last night?
And if they go Foden, Reiners, and Rodri against us in midfield, that feels like asking for trouble. I mean, that's tissue paper soft. So I don't know if they will do that. I would expect them to bring Bernardo Silva into midfield actually. Which I think gives them a little more guile and control than Foden does. And maybe Foden drops out and they go with Bob, or they go with Savinho off one flank, and I don't know, Doku off the other. And it's not that Doku doesn't scare me, but Timber is the one guy I think, can live with the tricky winger. So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, we know where the danger comes from with them, and we know where the battle has to be won. So I feel pretty confident in our ability to do it. I think there's going to be a lot of narrative going into this about, are we adventurous enough? But also, if Odegaard's not fit, are we going to pick Ethan over Marino in this game? I don't know. Will he go with Martinelli over Eze for his running at both ends? A lot of good choices he can make, and we will just have to see what happens. Let's leave it there. I'm going to throw to an interview I did with Boyce. It's 10 minutes long, about the KC Gooners. Kansas City is a football town and what to expect this weekend, because we'd love to see you there. But we will have a pod for you on Patreon tomorrow, and then instant reaction with a very drunk Clive, hopefully voice noting from the Emirates on Sunday, and maybe even Paul and I physically together from Kansas City doing the IR that day. We'll see what to make of that. So thank you very much, Paul.
Woohoo!
Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
My name is Elliot Smith. Here is me and Boyce. Okay, before we get out of here, I want to tell you about an event we have coming up. The Chicago event will be the weekend of the West Ham game, but coming up in just a couple of days, there's NBC Fan Fest in Kansas City in the Power and Light District. There's going to be a lot of great Arsenal fans there. There are going to be some not-so-great Arsenal fans there, myself and Paul included, but hopefully you will come see us and all the other things as well, and we're going to be doing an event there, and I thought a cool opportunity for us to say hello to one of the men behind the KC Gooners and to tell us more about the city, the football history there, the Arsenal background there, and the event that's coming up. So we will do all that in 10 minutes or less with Boyce Richardson. Hello, Boyce.
Hello, Elliot. How are you this evening?
I'm doing pretty well. The kids are mostly asleep, which is a miracle, but you know what? By the time I'm done recording this, I'm sure they will have woken up and given me something else to do, which is great. That way my evening won't be boring. But first of all, I appreciate you coming on. I'm really excited to see you, to spend some time in Kansas City, to talk Arsenal together, to share some, what should be fun times, hopefully, with all the great Gooners in Kansas City and from around the area, and then watch us stomp Manchester City. But before we get into the Arsenal of it, I think there's probably a sense when they announced that the Fan Fest was going to be in Kansas City of, well, why Kansas City? And to people who don't know, there's a really, really big football, red soccer tradition and history and support in Kansas City. So can you just tell us a little bit about Kansas City as a football town?
Absolutely. Obviously, Sporting Kansas City, previously known as the Wiz, previously known as the Wizards, was one of the original founding members of MLS in 1996. We had an NWSL team, KCFC, for a long time. The Wizards won in 2000, the Supporters Shield, which is something that's well renowned around here. Sporting Kansas City last won the title in 2013 with the MLS Cup. Obviously, FCKC have won multiple titles over the course of time, and the current seem very well positioned to potentially win the NWSL title this year. So the soccer capital of America moniker that we sort of self-imposed upon ourselves is well earned, at least it feels here.
Yeah, and it is a town that has passionate support for a number of different sports. Obviously, a big sporting story taking place in Kansas City now with the tight end of the football team marrying Taylor Swift. So that is that is a big story, of course, as well. But setting that aside, what about the Arsenal tradition? KC Gooners, a great group, huge support for Arsenal. I'm sure we're going to see that at FanFest. But can you give us a little bit of background on the Kansas City Gooners and the support for Arsenal there?
Yeah, I started KC Gooners in 2010. I had moved back from law school. I was in North Carolina, decided to start it. We started watching in my apartment at a complex called Western Auto here, which actually dominates the skyline in terms of the sign. You see downtown photos of Kansas City. The first big event that we ever had was at the A10 zone for the 2011 League Cup final that we unfortunately lost to Obafemi Martins and Birmingham, which is a really lovely start. Obviously, things didn't really start in earnest until 2013 when NBC took over coverage. But we started in 2011, and we would go to Johnny's, which is where the American Outlaws watched. And we kind of overtook that bar for the weekends whenever they would show matches on Fox Sports or ESPN. And then from 2013 on, we have been watching in earnest there for every match, Champions League, now that we're back in it, FA Cups, 2014, 2015, 2017. And then we were ultimately, thanks to the living room that everyone is going to see on Saturday and Sunday of Power and Light, we were able to be one of the only groups that watched the FA Cup final in 2020 in person as a group, masked up and ready to go. But we were out there watching us beat Chelsea in that match, and it was extremely gratifying after all we had endured.
Out of curiosity, if you had to guess for this fan fest, because for people who don't know, NBC does one of these every year now. It's a new tradition, but they pick a city, they bring the NBC crew out there, they have screens outside or set up viewing parties, and all the different supporters groups are out. Is your expectation that Arsenal will be the most represented crew at the fan fest? What's the lay of the land there?
I think if you look at any of our group photos in Kansas City in comparison to some of the other incredible supporters groups that we have here, Spurs have a good presence, Chelsea, Liverpool, City attempts to keep up with us over the course of time, and I think you'll see on Sunday that they aren't able to match the numbers that we have. I think that we've established an incredible group, a very diverse group, and a group that feels very much like a family that we've managed to maintain over the course of 15 years.
It's really special. I think for people who haven't had a chance to experience Arsenal support in the States, obviously it's one big community of people that love Arsenal, but there are all these Arsenal supporter groups in different states and even different metro areas. And so it's really cool because within these larger communities of Arsenal supporters globally and then Arsenal supporters in America, you then have Arsenal supporters in a certain state and in some instances even in a certain metro. And so a lot of friendships form that way, a lot of romantic relationships form that way. and
we've had a few.
And sometimes end that way as well, depending on how it's going.
We've had a few of those as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the occasional Matteo Guendouzi in the group, who just throws a wrench into things. But hey, since we're talking Kansas City, we can talk a little bit about the culture of the city, and it's a city that's known for a few things. I know it for Kansas City barbecue, for people who haven't had it, spare ribs slathered in a wonderful barbecue sauce, and there's a big schism in the barbecue community because you have dry rub and you have wet. You have the Memphis barbecue, which I got to sample quite a bit when I lived in Nashville. Tell us a bit about the Kansas City barbecue and why it is superior.
This is something that could go on for far longer than 10 minutes in isolation. I think even amongst denizens of the own city, I went to law school in North Carolina, so I have a little bit of the vinegar experience as well. It does not match, does not compare. Austin gets close. I'll give them that. But at the same time, as Anthony Bourdain said, as I think many people have repeated over the course of time, that a Z-Man at Oklahoma Joe's, or just Joe's KC as it is known, is the quintessential Seminole barbecue experience in America and in the world. And I would argue with any person who would dare challenge that, because it is the honest truth.
I have to say, despite having lived in Tennessee briefly, where Memphis is renowned for its dry rub barbecue ribs approach, I prefer the Kansas City approach. And I presume and hope that I will have the chance to sample some of those while I'm in town. So we look forward to that. Let's just quickly talk about the event itself, and I'll give people some information who want it again, and we'll have this on all the socials. But Saturday, September 20th at Oak and Steel, which is on 120 West 17th Street. Doors will open at 1. Our live show with Paul, Mike Feinberg of the Gooners Pod, Nate Bacati from KC Gooners and MLS, actually, will be there doing a panel, doing a show at Oak and Steel. So get there at 1. It'll start at 1:30. Afterwards, we'll be hanging around for drinks. We'll be spending time together. There's lots of great football going on. And then on Sunday, we'll have a place to gather and watch Arsenal beat Man City with the watching world along with us for the ride. So first, let's talk about this panel event. You want to tell people about Oak and Steel and about this event and what you're expecting?
Yeah, so not only is it a panel event for FanFest weekend, it is actually Oak and Steel's, I believe, 6th anniversary.
Cool.
They opened shortly before the pandemic and then endured all of that to then ultimately become sort of the seminal beer bar in Kansas City. Very excited to have people there. Kyle, the owner, is very excited to host people. We've sort of scrambled together all the materials that we need in order to be able to get people there. It has a capacity of about 100 people plus an outdoor patio, so I think we'll be well covered for attendance-related purposes. And then every barrel-aged stout that you could ever possibly want in your entire life will be on tap thereafter, which could probably only end in disaster.
Look, I know there are a lot of fine British listeners who are saying, American swill, not for me, mate. But I'm telling you, there is some good beer in this country. Although, admittedly, there's some great beer overseas as well. And then on Sunday, actually, for the FanFest itself and for the game, where should Gooners who will be in the area expect to gather?
So our home pub is Johnny's. It's been that way since 2011. We share it with the American Outlaws as well. People will be there. I'll be there as early as 7:30 in the morning, although Johnny's will be open at 5 o'clock on Sunday for FanFest on both Saturday and Sunday.
Wow, okay.
We will be gathering for the first half of the Arsenal women's match. They actually play Manchester United at 8:50 in the morning, with sort of a gathering time of about 9:45 to head out to the living room to be able to prepare for the pregame and the festivities against Manchester City at 10:30. So that's the general plan. And then in the aftermath of that, we have the upstairs reserved again in the interior of Johnny's, and we can go back and continue on for hopefully our celebrations of another 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 goal victory over Manchester City this year.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, even United had some chances against City, so it doesn't bode well for them. I will tell you that we will also be doing an instant reaction for patrons that day, and if possible, Paul and I might try to find an area where some people can cheer in the background as we do it and watch that live. So you can watch us record that live, and then we'll have that out right away, presuming all the technological capabilities are there for us to get it done. But it's going to be, I think, a heck of a fun weekend. And, you know, I just cannot emphasize how wonderful it is to get out of our home locations, go to other places, meet complete strangers, and immediately feel bonded to them, immediately enjoy the time together and feel connected to something. And that's the power of being an Arsenal supporter. So whether that's in Singapore like it was this summer, LA and Philadelphia the summer before, whether it's Chicago where we'll be in October, or Kansas City where I can't wait to be this coming weekend, you know, whether that is in London or in Lisbon or in hopefully Belgium this winter where I'm going to try to be, it never gets old meeting people who love Arsenal, and you immediately feel like you've known each other a lifetime because of that support. So, Boyce, I'm looking forward to spending time with you. I'm looking forward to spending time in Kansas City with everybody who's going to be there. And just thank you for what you've done to help organize it, to help make it a success. I know it's going to be a great weekend, and look forward to having it be the first of many good events in Kansas City. So I really appreciate you telling us about it.
Thank you so much, Elliot. And a special thank you to Tim Stillman, who from the moment I went over to England and London for the first time in 2013 has been just an incredible human being and one of the nicest resources I've ever had from an Arsenal perspective. So cheers to Arsenal Vision, and to you and to Tim, Clive, Paul, everyone. We're really thankful to have everybody here, and it's a big deal for Kansas City, and we're thankful to be moving forward with it and to have an incredible weekend. Hopefully the rain holds off and we'll just have an incredible time.
have an extra beer, we won't even notice. And I have to say, I've heard mixed things about Tim, but we'll take your advice on that one. Okay. Enough nonsense. There'll be a Friday Night Clive episode coming for you tomorrow. If you'd like to join us for that, and just in time for me to hop on the plane and head to Kansas City, where we hope to see you. Thanks to Boyce. Thanks to everybody listening. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in person, but if not, at least seeing you in these fine digital spaces. We love you, and we will, of course, talk to you after Arsenal 10 City.